I remember one night when I was 15 years old at my old house in Pittsburgh. My good friend Travis was sitting in my room and playing the Wii, since it was the only system I had at the moment. We were playing the Wii for about 1 hour, and then Travis said, "Dude, I'm getting bored and we literally don't have anything to play. I might just go home for the night and get ready for school tomorrow." I didn't really want my friend to go home and think I was just a boring person, so I made a quick statement and said, "How about we just walk around before you go home and try to find something scary?" Surprisingly, he said, "That actually sounds entertaining. Let's go do it before I go home." And I agreed, but he then said that he had to go to the bathroom before we left. I sat down on the bed. While waiting, I randomly received a sharp head pain that went away within 2 seconds. Right after, Travis walked in and said, "Actually, I don't have to go to the bathroom, but I did think of a cool place to explore." I agreed to it, but I told him it cannot be far. He said that it wasn't that far from my house, but on our way out, he was speed walking and trying to get out fast. He was walking in a sneaky type manner, and I thought it was funny, so I joined in with him as we left my house. While we were walking there, I was trying to talk to him, but he just wasn't replying to me. I found it somewhat weird, but I just thought he had a lot going on in his head because he was going through stuff at the time. After about a 5-minute quiet walk, we finally reached a big empty building. "Okay, we're here. Let's have fun and explore," Travis exclaimed. I agreed, and we found a way in through a side window. As soon as we entered the building, my body instantly received a cold shiver down my spine. It felt as if my body was screaming at me to leave. I asked if he felt weird as well, but he said with a deep and slow tone, "I don't feel anything." I felt extremely weird, but didn't think much about it because I wasn't alone. I had Travis there with me, so what could go wrong? We then started walking to the staircase and had 2 options, to go up or down. I was thinking about what we should explore first, but he then said, "Let's explore downstairs first. I believe it would be more fun and interesting, don't you think?" I nodded, so we went. On my way down the stairs, he rushed past me. He then stood at the entrance at the bottom and said with the same tone as before, "Are you coming?" Something in my body screamed no, and it scared me. So I told him no and that I was going home. "Fine, suit yourself," he said. I didn't care though. I told him I would see him tomorrow and I started to run home. 2 minutes later, I walked into my house and was walking up my stairs to see Trey sitting on my bed. "All right, let's go exploring now since you're finished being weird," he said, chuckling. I was super confused. How did he get to my house so fast and without me even knowing? I asked him how he got home before me. "What are you talking about? I never left the house, and neither did you," he replied, confused. A child crept through me. I was terrified. "So where was I then?" I asked. He said that as soon as he came back from the bathroom, I told him that before we went exploring, we should sit down and talk. He found it super weird. He said I then started walking downstairs. He thought I had something to do down there. So he said that he'd sit on my bed and wait for me. Learning this, I stood there in fear and began to cry. He didn't know what to do, so he went home. I spoke to my parents about it, but they didn't believe me. I always sit back and think, what if I had said yes and went down to the basement with Travis? Or whoever that was that day. My grandma has a vacation house on a burial ground of some sort. My dad has stories of his whole childhood, of paranormal, creepy things that happened to him there and at his other house, which was also located on a burial ground. My family and I were invited to stay a few nights at the vacation house when I was around 14. The whole vibe was a little eerie and off, but I didn't think much of it. The room me and my 5 other siblings were going to stay in had 4 bunk beds, 2 on each wall, and a small walkway in the middle. There was a window, an empty closet, and a door behind one of the bunk beds. We weren't allowed in there, but my older sister had visited with my cousin before, and they went inside. It was empty, just darkness and dirt. She said her. And our cousin heard weird noises coming from inside, and that's what sparked their curiosity. Anyway, overall, the downstairs was just eerie, and I wasn't excited to sleep down there. That night I fell asleep pretty quickly, but at around 3 or 4 a.m., I woke up. My eyes immediately opened and were fixed on what looked like a tall black figure with glowing white eyes. It was staring at my older sister as she slept. And I kid you not, it was like it knew I had woken up and almost immediately whipped its head around towards me. Sometimes we see things in the dark we aren't sure are real. But no, I knew it was real. I thought, maybe I'm having sleep paralysis, because I was in such fear that I felt like I couldn't move, speak, or blink. I was just staring at this black aura sort of thing, and I knew it was staring back. When I mustered up the courage, I flipped over and faced the wall, shut my eyes and tried to go back to sleep. I waited for the thing to come toward me or something, but it didn't. I turned back over to look at where it had been. It was gone. I ended up telling my mom about it and was going to tell my grandma, but my mom stopped me. The whole thing really freaked me out. My fiancé and I were driving around late one night, just taking in the summer air and clear skies, as that's one of our favorite pastimes. Not sure if there were any planned lunar eclipses or events in the night sky that night. But suddenly, my fiancé pointed at the sky. When I saw what he was pointing at, I couldn't take my eyes off of it. In awe, we both for about 10 to 30 seconds sat silently watching the moon twist and distort right before our eyes. I thought for sure the world was ending. We were speechless. When it finally stopped, I shakily said, "What the hell? Did you see that?" And after we talked about it back and forth, the best way we could describe it was as if somehow the moon's image was smudged in the night sky. There were no clouds, and watching the event left us both feeling extremely unnerved. We went home right after, but still recall the memory to this day as being one of the most existentially distressing nights we've ever had. One night I made brownies at around 7:30 p.m. I talked to my sister the whole time I made them. We mostly talked about her college classes, but it wasn't limited to that. She had come home for about 4 days from her university. The brownies I made were a small batch, fit for a 9 by 9 inch glass tray. Since it was small, it only went in the oven for 40 minutes. At the time, I liked to make brownies every week, but sometimes I still liked to make them. My sister and I talked for about another 30 minutes before she had to get on with her homework, and I texted my girlfriend for a while. I took the brownies out of the oven, which fogged my glasses so badly. I do remember that batch being the best batch I ever made with that recipe. But for the rest of the day, I just did what a young teenager would do. I called my girlfriend all night and watched TV. I continued with that until about 12:30 p.m. when I realized I had forgotten to put foil on the brownies I made earlier. I left my phone in my room so as to not mess up the hours on the call, since we planned to set a new record for how long we talked on the phone. I quietly went downstairs so I didn't wake my parents or sister. I got to the bottom of the stairs and turned left down the hallway to the dining room. I flipped on the light and went right into the kitchen. I kept straight to the stove and admired the brownies. I picked one up and set it on the counter. As I was getting the foil, I heard a loud meow right outside the kitchen window. Now, hearing a meow isn't odd. We have inside cats, but all the cats were in the living room asleep, and the only outside cat was in the garage, most likely asleep. What frightened me was that it wasn't a cat's meow, it appeared to be a man's. Out of my peripheral vision, I thought I saw a figure standing right outside the window, but when I looked directly at it, it had disappeared. From the position of the meow, the man would have seen me turn on the light and walk past the dining room. I had the feeling he was watching me through the window of the kitchen. After that, I didn't dare look outside. I just covered the brownies, turned off the light, and ran upstairs to my room.
I talked to my girlfriend about it and looked up the nearest mental hospitals. There were 2 within 9 miles. I wondered if someone had escaped. I didn't fall asleep till about 3:30. I never did find out who made that sound.
I remember when I was about 4 or 5 years old, I had a dog called Jessica. I loved her so much. She would always lie by my side and we would be together 24/7. She was a small Jack Russell, white with brown spots. She wasn't a very energetic dog, but we would always go for walks in my grandmother's garden. And I remember it so vividly. Well, to get to the main story, about 2 weeks ago when I visited my grandparents for the holiday weekend, everything was going amazing. It was Christmas night when I was helping my grandmother prepare dinner. It was getting pretty boring, so I started making conversation with her. I don't remember how I got on the topic, but I told her how I missed Jessica. She interrupted me by asking, "Jessica? Jessica who? Who is that?" I explained that she was the dog I had when I was a kid. She was white with brown spots, and how we would do everything together. My grandma was shocked and could barely get her words straight. She proceeded with the word, "how?" Confused, I asked her what she meant by that. She told me that I never had a dog named Jessica, and that she doesn't understand how I would even know that name. "I don't understand," I said. "I did have a dog named Jessica." She shook her head. "No, you didn't, but I did." She explained that she used to take her dog Jessica for walks in her garden. She was also white with brown spots. Jessica was her dog when she was 4 years old, but she had never told me that. I still don't understand how this is possible. I'm still freaked out about this to this day.